Hey, what is up, mortals? It is Trina here with a new video for you. Welcome to the Season 2 finale of What If Deku Was Given the Six Paths Power? I just want to greet you guys by just saying, sit back and relax, you're in for a treat. So we begin. The internships had concluded, and once more, the students had returned to their regular class days at UA High. The first thing they all did was talk about their experience throughout the week that had just transpired. Some had gotten little out of it, while others seemed to have changed entirely. Uraraka was one of those, as, after her week with Gunhead, she seemed like a fighting machine. But before they could all get out of hand with their experiences, Ida ordered them to calm down and take seats. The class obeyed their class president without any objections. Later on, All Might took them out of the classroom and into Playground Gamma to practice their hero work in the form of a rescue training race. In it, 3 groups of 6 formed in which each group would race amongst themselves to see who was the fastest of the 6. And so, the first group was called out. This one consisted of Bakugo, Sero, Ashido, Ida, Ojiro, and Midoriya. The race began, and Bakugo quickly took the lead. He almost seemed like a different person. His explosions propelled him faster than what was expected. Kacchan is fast! Way faster than before! Could it be 2 times faster? No! Almost 3 times! Just what kind of training did you go through, Kacchan? Midoriya thought as he tried to keep up but failed to do so. In the end, Kacchan took first place while Midoriya took second. Meanwhile, Sero took third. Midoriya congratulated Bakugo for his win, and Bakugo respectfully agreed to it and responded accordingly. All seemed fine, so the next group would begin their race shortly. A while later, All Might had taken Izuku to his office, where they would speak about the recent events involving Stain.
I've heard that you were present in Hosu City on the night of the Stain incident. I'm also aware that you were the one responsible for saving your classmate. You engaged in fighting the criminal, didn't you, young Midoriya?
All Might asked as he looked down at the table. I did engage the hero killer to save Ida by knocking Stain out to get those injured out of danger. That's what a true hero would have done, I once assumed. But then I saw the news the next day, which brings me to my question. Why is it that the heroes executed Stain instead of apprehending him? Midoriya asked as he looked straight at his master. A deep sigh escaped All Might, and then his vision was set to his pupil. His blue eyes shined as he began to explain it to Midoriya.
Indeed, Stain was executed by us pro-heroes. We were given the order to do so, and so we carried it out. After the events of the USJ, we can no longer risk putting the people in danger, and if that means taking out the villains before they could do more harm, then so be it. Sending villains that hurt or kill to prison isn't viable anymore, young Midoriya. It might sound bleak, but this is the future of heroism. We must destroy the roots of villainy before more of the innocent perish.
Izuku understood what All Might was saying, and to some extent it made sense. But this didn't make it any less inhumane. The laws had been built to prevent this kind of thing, but now the heroes were given the position of being the executioners as well. If that was the case, then wasn't the line between heroes and villains become blurry? A life was a life, so taking any away was wrong without a doubt. Izuku knew that people could change. It was always possible. Just look at Kacchan. He went from the biggest jerk to an actually nice person that perhaps could be considered a friend. Midoriya's thoughts on this whole ordeal kept rampaging on, but he managed to calm them down for the most part. All Might then mentioned that he would pass One for All to Deku after the first term concluded, and the boy accepted. Maybe with it, he could forge a path different from the one that the current heroes were taking. As Deku exited the office, he bumped into Uraraka. She seemed quite cheerful, but at the same time, a little reserved. What was this look? Sorry about that, Uraraka. You're not hurt, right?
No, I'm okay. I was just looking for you,
the girl said as she almost fumbled her words. Looking for me? The boy asked, a bit confused.
Yeah, so you know that the final term exams are coming, right? They might be quite hard knowing that this is UA and all, so I wanted to start studying. But could we maybe study together, Deku?
A flustered Uraraka asked, hoping that the boy in front of her would say yes already.
Uraraka wants to study with me?
Izuku thought as all the previous conversation with All Might was thrown into a dark corner. Of course, he answered, which made Uraraka jump in surprise.
Really?
Yeah, would you mind if we started today? There's no time to waste, Izuku said while thinking of the many possibilities if she agreed to start today.
No, that's fine. The sooner we start, the better the results. So, where should we go then? A cafe? A library?
Uraraka stopped as she tried to think of other places to go after the school day concluded. How about my home? Deku suggested.
Your home?
Uraraka stuttered, becoming red on the spot. Minutes later, the two teens ended up agreeing to study at Izuku's place. Later that night, as Izuku had just finished eating dinner, his doorbell rang. But before he could make it there, his mother had already begun opening the door.
Oh, so you must be the girl that my Izuku keeps talking about. What a cutie you are,
Inko said as she began to pat Uraraka. Was all that the girl could put out as she was being embarrassed right in front of Deku. By his mother, no less. Mom, please stop! You're going to scare her away! Izuku exclaimed as he tried to stop his mother from patting the poor girl. Inko stopped, and it was a miracle that Uraraka didn't run off immediately after. She was allowed to enter, and the door closed. She took off her sandals and made it into the living room area. But before they could begin the study session, Izuku asked his mother to take Uraraka to his room. He had to use the restroom first, and it was for the best if Uraraka was already getting ready while he did his thing. Inko agreed, and she took Uraraka to his son's room, the one adorned with so much All Might merchandise that you might have confused it with an All Might exhibit.
So much All Might,
Uraraka uttered under her breath.
Izuku always made me buy him anything that had All Might on it. He has always been his biggest fan.
I can tell,
Uraraka commented as she genuinely began to see just how much more All Might stuff surrounded her. In a way, it began to feel terrifying. Uraraka took a seat by the small table on the floor. She got comfortable and began to place all the necessary notebooks on it. She then turned around and saw that Inko was still there by her side. She felt a bit creeped out, so she tried to make her leave. Uraraka began to speak, but she was immediately interrupted by Izuku's mom.
Were you aware that you would be the first?
Uraraka let out as she was shocked by the sudden interruption.
Oh, you didn't know? Izuku has never had a girlfriend, so you would be the first. I wish you luck, Uraraka. You have my blessing.
Inko clarified as she slowly closed the door until she disappeared from view. Uraraka went into tomato mode once more as even Izuku's mother had noticed the obvious and, worst of all, was making fun of it. Didn't people understand that it was hard for someone to admit their feelings? Especially when the person you liked was as dense as cold maple syrup or even honey. Either way, the girl began to calm down, and by the time Izuku had arrived, Uraraka had regained her composure. This didn't mean that she wasn't distracted, far from it. She couldn't concentrate at all. After that study session, Uraraka invited Deku to study at her place, and so they only went there for the rest of the sessions, ignoring the existence of Izuku's place from ever appearing on screen ever again. Honey is a free browser add-on available on Google, Opera, Firefox, Safari. If it's a browser, it has Honey. Honey automatically saves you money when you check out on sites like Amazon, Papa John's, and Kohl's. Wherever you shop, it's a good chance that Honey can save you money. All you have to do when you're checking out at these stores is to click that little orange button and it will scan the entire internet and find discount codes for you. If there is a coupon code, they will find it. And if there's not a coupon code, you can rest assured that you are getting the best price possible. If you install Honey right now, you can save like $50 to $100 on your shopping, doing nothing. There's literally no reason not to install Honey. It takes 2 clicks. 10 million people use it. 100,000 5-star reviews. Unless you hate money, you should install Honey. The day of the first term final exams arrived, and so they began with the written test. These didn't take long, and they were left behind relatively quickly. Uraraka and Deku would surely ace this. Afterward, the students were to take the test exercise in which they would be paired up with another classmate to take on a teacher. All these would take at the same time, so those that finished quickly could spectate the other pairs from a screen room. Whoever failed this test by not crossing the finish line would end up in remedial hell throughout the entire summer, while all those that passed would be able to go to a summer lodge. As the teams were announced, it was shown that Deku had been paired up with Bakugo, and they would face off against All Might. Both boys fist bumped right after.
We got this in the bag, Deku,
Bakugo commented as confusion among the teachers grew even more prominent. Let's show All Might what we have created! Minutes later, they were in front of All Might as the test began.
You know, young men, you were both chosen, knowing that you were the worst duo imaginable. Both of your past are well known, which meant that as heroes, we needed to mend those. So here we are. Show me how much you've grown since then,
All Might exclaimed as he got ready. Are they ready? Izuku asked Bakugo.
Yep, all full.
What proceeded was quite impressive as both of the boys easily dispatched of All Might to win. Izuku first began with his Cataclysm attack, which was then followed by the release of Bakugo's gauntlets at full power towards his idol. After the smoke cleared, All Might could barely move, and it wasn't over. Deku had just unveiled his new attack, the Six Paths Changed Cage. All Might now resided within a cage made out of Truth Seeker orbs, and he was chained to it 9 times overall throughout his body. Izuku and Bakugo then propelled each other at high speed towards the finish line, crossing it without issue. Deku then called his orbs back, and he de-transformed. All Might congratulated both of them on such an excellent performance, and they celebrated for a moment before going to the screen room to see the other students. The time limit for the test had been 30 minutes, but since they had only taken so little time, they were going to be able to see all the other fights taking place. And as that was going on, somewhere far away, a meeting was starting.
Look, Tomura, a special package has arrived.
All for One said as he handed Shigaraki a small, sealed case.
Ooh, could it be another gaming handout?
The boy asked as he then opened it and saw its contents. In that case, there were 5 yellow cartridges with hypodermic needles, 5 bullets ready for use. These were created as part of the arrangement that All for One had made with Overhaul quite a while back.
What the hell is this?
Young Shigaraki exclaimed. He had no clue what needled cartridges were meant to do.
My mistake. I forgot to hand out the firearm. Here you go, Tomura.
All for One said as he then handed a pistol to his pupil. It even had a suppressor on it.
So you're giving me a weapon when I can already decay. This is like giving Doomsday an AK-900, Master.
Shigaraki complained as he saw no reason to lower himself to the level of a common street thug.
Tomura, my boy, you can't yet perceive just how strong this new acid can be. With it, you will be able to make others despair. The fear within them will rise to levels never before experienced. Use it against the students of that class that made fun of you. But now, I'll take my leave. Kurogiri will teach you how to utilize it.
And with those words, All for One departed, leaving his pupil to decide on whom to use it. If only Shigaraki had known what his master had done hours prior when he was shown the effects of the new drug on a captured high school female student. Overhaul had done so mercilessly in the hopes of pleasing All for One, and, in turn, getting an approval rating to finally be on his good side. What Overhaul didn't expect was for All for One to demand the mass production of said drug, which he reluctantly had to agree to produce. The young girl that had been shot twice was now free as she got loose from her ties, running in the hopes of escaping, but she tripped on her shoe. As she recovered from the fall, she saw All for One's hand in front of her, and she was grabbed. The quirk of the little girl had been stolen. And with all businesses concluded for the day, All for One left the Shie Hasaikai base. Now Tomura wondered what his master meant with what he said and on who to use it on. But at that instant, he remembered the green-haired boy, and his mind, it was settled. He would use it on him. But before he could think more about it, he was interrupted as a crazy-looking blonde girl and a guy with burned skin entered the HQ. Indeed, this was going to be a long day for the young symbol of fear. As the exams concluded and everyone was informed of their results, those that failed whimpered as they would miss the Summer Lodge experience. But that didn't last long, as once more, this had been a troll move from Aizawa-sensei towards his students. So as the students cheered, they were then informed that they would still go through arduous remedial periods while at the lodge, so in a sense their punishment for failing had become even worse. The students then decided to go to the mall the next day, being free and all, to prepare for the 1-week training boot camp at the lodge. As this happened, Uraraka thought that perhaps she could finally tell Deku about her feelings, and so she decided to go along no matter what. The next day arrived, and it was quite beautiful. The skies were clear, the sun was up, and the summer heat was beginning to set in. Those of Class 1A that had decided to come to the mall were now together, but Midori and Uraraka were the closest of them all. Soon everyone else had gone to do their things while these two were still together. "Sorry, Uraraka, but would you mind waiting for me? I need to use the restroom," the young boy said as he pointed toward a restroom nearby.
No problem. Go ahead. I'll sit here.
Uraraka lied as she then went to take a seat nearby at a circular sitting place with a double palm tree in the middle.
Seriously, again? The last time you did this, your mom ended up making me feel weird. This is definitely a bad omen.
The young girl thought as she tried to distract her mind with everything around her. It didn't take long for Deku to finish, but as he got out, he was grabbed by someone with a black hoodie. At first, it seemed like a friendly gesture, but this all changed when he felt the guy's fingers in his throat.
Let's have a chat, shall we, Izuku Midoriya? Shigaraki whispered as he took Izuku to the back of the wall behind both entrances to the boys' and girls' bathrooms. "Let go of me, Tomura Shigaraki, or I'll—" Midoriya began to say before the symbol of fear stopped him. You're in no position to negotiate or even to do anything. I've snuffed that action replay of yours so you can come down and play with the rest of us. If you try anything, I'll just lower my finger and you'll end up just like that small friend of yours, the one with the sticky balls on top of his head," Shigaraki explained as he laughed his head off. "And if you do, you'll get captured and then executed like your friend Stain," Izuku responded. "Friend? He was no friend of mine. And as for that, oh, believe me, by the time they could capture me, I would have killed close to a couple of dozen people. But let's get more personal. Try anything, and I'll go after that girl that you're always with. Wouldn't that be fun?" Shigaraki asked as he awaited a response from the cheater below. "Fine, I'll chat with you, but don't go after her. She's not involved with anything between you and me. That stays between the two of us, right?" "As long as your behavior stays natural, then this shouldn't take long. Now, shall we begin?" By now, Uraraka was beginning to worry. It wasn't normal for Deku to take this long and even less in a public bathroom. Did something happen to him? Should she go check on him? She wondered as she got up without noticing, but as she reached the hallway that had both bathrooms, she saw Deku with a person right beside him. He had a dark hoodie and he had his right arm around Deku. Perhaps they were friends, Uraraka initially thought, but then she noticed that the guy had his hand on Deku's throat, and at that moment, she knew that she had to act.
Let go of him!
She shouted as she rushed to Shigaraki. "Stay back!" Deku cried out to warn her, but it was too late. The moment that Shigaraki had seen the girl rush him, he pulled out the weapon his master had given him from his left hoodie pocket, and he aimed it at her. He smiled even harder than he had moments ago as he pulled the trigger, and the yellow projectile shot itself into Uraraka's stomach. As the shot landed and began to take effect, Uraraka felt pain course throughout her entire body, similar to being shocked and also being hugged really hard. The young girl collapsed on her knees as she grabbed both shoulders with her opposite arms. She tried to scream in pain, but nothing came out. As this was happening, a weird dark liquid came out of Shigaraki's mouth, and a second after, he was gone as if he was never there to begin with. Deku quickly ran towards Uraraka to check if she was alright, but as he kneeled to ask, he began to notice weird things about her. Her clothes seemed to be slightly too big for her, wrinkled way more than usual. Her black leggings were the same deal too. They were no longer skin tight, and if he didn't see things, then they were getting even less so. He quickly got her up to her feet, but that's when he noticed something immediately. She seemed smaller than usual, and she had a yellowish outline.
I'm okay,
she answered, her voice sounding slightly higher than usual. "No, you're not, Uraraka! You look younger!" Deku pointed out as all the previous clues had come together to form this answer.
Younger?
She asked as she felt her shorts begin to slide down a bit, something that should have been impossible. Izuku then grabbed her hand and took her to a seat, coincidentally where she was sitting before the situation. There they would see as the process continued. Slowly but surely she grew younger, and her clothing became increasingly oversized. Her leggings eventually gave up and slid off her now dangling legs. They almost looked like accordions as the bunched up leggings stopped on the lower part of her legs. The rest of them had stopped on top of her shoes that hadn't fallen off yet. Her shirt had become too wide for her shoulders, and one of them was now exposed, also showing the loose bra strap of her now beyond useless lingerie. The girl could only contain her tears as she felt it happening slowly for a couple of minutes until it stopped. "I think it stopped! The outline disappeared!" Deku pointed out as he saw it vanish.
Okay, I'll get up now,
Uraraka said and flinched at the sound of her voice. It was almost that of a middle schooler. Deku got up first, and soon Uraraka did the same, but as she did, her shorts slid right down to join her leggings. They'd become way too wide for her to wear, or better said, she became too small for them. Her underwear almost did the same too, but she caught it just in time and kept it where it was supposed to stay because it clearly wouldn't by itself. The more she looked down, the worse it got. All her clothing was rendered obsolete as it was now many sizes too big. This also included the shoes that contained her now swimming feet covered in wrinkly loose socks. She tried to fix her sleeve, but to no success as it slipped right back down, now taking down the strap with it. She felt even more embarrassed as the other strap fell and she was forced to fix both of them.
But that's when she noticed that she had reverted through most of puberty, as there was basically nothing but the beginnings of development sprouting out again. Uraraka grabbed her shorts with her other hand and hiked them up, trying to be strong in the situation, but as she saw how big Deku was, the tears escaped her eyes and didn't stop. The top of the poor girl's head was now the same level as the shoulders. She was positively tiny now, and her whole life was ruined. She collapsed once more and began to cry loudly, which alerted everyone around her. The police soon escorted both of them out of the mall. The police interrogated Izuku first, and he exited without knowing what had happened to Uraraka. The poor girl had been taken by her parents and had been checked by her doctor, which confirmed the worst. The girl had regressed to the age of around 12, according to the data that had been acquired since she was born. She was only 140 centimeters tall now compared to the 156 she had been just a day prior. The worst part was that she had been rewinded back to the very beginning of puberty, so all the parts of her body that would show these effects were now gangly like those of a preteen. She had been a late bloomer, and now it was showing once more. Uraraka became depressed as she arrived home with her parents. They wanted her to go back to live with them, to which she couldn't object. She wasn't even the right age to live by herself anymore. The girl could only burst into tears as her parents took all her clothing away to be stored up, clothing that she wouldn't be able to wear correctly for a few years at least. But as she held her phone, she cried harder. Her parents had told her that she would have to leave UA High as well. Being 12 and all meant that she wasn't even old enough to attend now. She knew that she could fight for it, but by now, she was beyond defeated. And so, she called Deku. He picked up, but before he could say a word, Uraraka made it known.
Deku, I'm leaving UA.
Thank you all for indulging yourselves in all this information thus far. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, I'd like to thank our Patreons, BD Flames, Ethan Davis, Terry Chills, Shifter Melees, Adam Zagil, XAV Beat 03, Zill, and Joshua Phelps. Secondly, I also like to thank all of our YouTube members, Toy Acosta, Rob the King, Sith Lord 906, CF2364, and Knuckles, Remio Tempest, Angel Juarez, Donald C. Stewart, Bryant Greer, and Refik 135. Thirdly, if you're in the mood for some great storytelling, We the Celestials has you covered. Our We the Celestials, My Hero Academia, and Naruto What If channels retell the story of their namesake anime with a twist. Check it out if you're interested. Fourthly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in today's excellent content production. Their details can be found in the description below. Lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at We the Celestials, I'd like to extend an invitation to join the team. The only caveat is that we only accept members from 16 years old to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interest by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. We're always looking for members to join us. And if you want more content from me, check out my socials on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube at Trina Do Hard. Well, that's it from us for today's video, so thank you all for watching, and have a great day!